All of the views and opinions expressed here are those of the individual speaking and may not be representative of Konig American. At times, language may be considered vulgar. Listener discretion is suggested.
You are now listening to the KONIG Behind the Wheel podcast.
So I touched on it real quick before, and I want to ask you a few questions about it. I think that there's probably some people you could help with it, but if you're not okay with any of it, there's no problem. We don't even have to go there. You were really vocal and open with this on social media, so I felt like it was a relevant thing. I really know that there was plenty of points, especially last season, that you really struggled with kind of your own mental situation and kind of some of the struggles that were kind of, impacting. Like, you were right on the height. You made it. Listen, you were a Pro 2 champion. You came into pro. I mean, you had what everybody was aspiring in coming up as a drifter for. Yep. And then yet you were so open about how tough it was for you and how kind of you were in your own inner, demon there, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was it? What were the things that really kind of stressed you out and kind of threw you into some of that?
Going into that, I mean, the biggest stress of coming into the pro was, the year before, it was me and Nate teamed up.
Yeah.
He ended up separating and kind of going out and doing his own thing. And that unfortunately kind of threw on some bad blood between us in different things. And to where, I ended up having to last minute make my way out to Irwindale in 2017 to, kind of fulfill some things. And so that right there just, was a bunch of it because, we had already had things set to where for that round, because I wasn't driving because it was my Pro 2 year, the cars would be taken out there. Nate was already in Texas at the time. He was going to have the trailer we left there after Texas round. My car, everything was there. It was supposed to be all just taken out there for us to run that final event for him, as well as have my car on display and do some other obligations that I had set. So then I didn't find all this out till like the week before Irwindale. And I was in New York at the time for a friend of mine's bachelor party. And I get all this news and it was like, all right, so we have to figure out a plan. So that was when I flew back home. I did a load of laundry, jumped in the shower, and packed a bag and jumped in the new shop truck that we picked up that day that had like 60 miles on it and drove solo to Texas to pick up the trailer and then drive solo to California.
Right.
Because also last minute I couldn't find any co-driver or anything like that. So it was just like, I got to get this done because I have to get to the event. So that, put a bit of stress, right there, just kind of going into it. It was like, all right, cool. Well, the off season's here now. Like, let's figure everything out. We go through SEMA, which is where, drivers and such in our position usually have a lot of our contracts and our deals sorted out for the following season.
Right.
Hankook at the time was my, tire sponsor for 17. I go to SEMA and, I had talks with them. You had a great year. You really put us on the map. We really appreciate it. The new tire was tougher, on some of the other guys, Forsberg and some other guys had like rough years with, car setup and just different things or whatever. And, so they were super, super happy, super stoked for my progression and then what I was able to do for them. And, no problem, for going into pro, we're going to run you again and we'll have tires for you and everything set. So during SEMA time, I didn't even bother to
look for another tire company. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even bother to reach out to anyone else because I'd already had the deal locked in, before SEMA really. They were stoked on everything. We were set to go. And then like a week or two later, then find out that, boom, they're not in it. They pull out and all the other tire companies at that point had already appointed all their tire budget to drivers. And a lot of them had overdone their budget because it was the first year that Achilles and Nexen had decided to take on all of the Pro 2 stuff. So they had already, with losing one tire manufacturer, they had to step up and pick up, all of us that had been dropped from Hankook. And so going into the year, I ended up literally last minute finally getting, something sorted out with Nexen and was able to, luckily be with Nexen for the year and get everything sorted and going. But it was also, builds, the car build came in last moment. locked the engine on the dyno 3 weeks before we're supposed to leave.
Right.
The roof of my trailer flying off on
Right.
the way to Long Beach.
Yep.
It was it was a year. It was a test. I really think it was.
Yeah.
It was a busy. There was a lot going on, and it was a lot to handle. With trying to get everything set. It was the first year that I had stepped up and started taking over like the actual management position of my program.
Right.
And really doing a lot of, contact with sponsors and stuff like that, make sure I have the car ready. After the whole, Long Beach and Orlando stuff, when we finally get this 14 going, like I said, I was able to move more back and focus on my program because I just didn't have the energy in me to be able to do both, my normal job as well as doing that. So I was luckily able to get kind of moved where I was able to have more time back, focus on the car. It was a stressful year to take on as the first time, especially with being the rookie year with, going out and finally being able at that pro level and going out and driving with literally the best drivers in the world.
Right.
So that was, a huge bit of pressure too. It's like, yeah, it's exciting, but it's also like, man, I really want to compete with these guys. I really want to have something to say. I want to be able to go out and drive with them and show them, them kind of turn ahead and go, all right, we see you. So
yeah,
it was a lot to get together, and luckily Indy, it was starting to come together once the car I was getting more comfortable in the car. We were having better results and better events and all. So it was just a rough start, I think, to the year that kind of just dragged out longer than it should have. And by the time we got motion, it was, the season was over.
Right. So it's just a series of, it's almost like you really just mentally burnt out. Like you were like, I just can't do it anymore.
Yeah. Cause like I said, with the first few events, it was really just like, it was like, what else could go wrong? I think the first year for everyone in pro is a test. I mean, I was helping, in 2012, I was helping Chelsea Denofa.
Right.
For his, rookie year. And we literally started out the season with nearly the same situation. He, I think, nearly lost an engine right beforehand. His trailer roof blew off, in California. And then, we had some troubles with his car. He ended up wadding it, not anything crazy, like wrecking it a little bit in Long Beach. And then it was like, all right, we got 2 weeks. Let's go to the next one. And it was, I think everyone's first year of pro is just like is a big test to see, like, are you ready for it? Or, so.
I guess, but I mean, I can understand your point. It's almost like you get to a point where you were having so many things happen to you back, right after one after another, that it almost felt like the deck was starting to get a little stacked against you.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was just like, then it was like, all right, cool. I think we finally got everything going. It's like, all right, cool. We're here. We're in Atlanta. All right. Atlanta's a track I've just always struggled with to get set up, get comfortable with for that entry. Like, it's just for some reason that track's like my kryptonite. It always just kind of gets me. But once I go through qualifying, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And so it was like, all right, cool. I finally get comfortable. I end up qualifying. It was like, I feel great. This is awesome. Now I know everything's going to be great tomorrow. It's like, I had Forsberg for the first round in Long Beach to battle. And then Orlando I had, and it was like, cool. Then I pulled, Kristaps, in the battle there. And I'm like, man, I've had 3 hard hitters, 3 amazing drivers, right off the bat. And I was like, I gotta get someone, a little, closer to, my skill level. I can't keep going against these, these pros, and, these guys have been doing this for 7, 8 years.
Against these pros.
They're I'd say veterans, I guess you could say.
I know what you mean.
And then I was like, well, it's whatever, I'm just going to go out. I'm just going to do everything I can. I'm just going to, give Kristaps, the best run or whatever I can do. And, sure enough, go out and, do everything I can to keep up with them. We switch positions to go out and do my lead run, and I come in just as hot as I can down the hill.
Yeah.
I step the car out way, like a foot and a half over the line, and I just ream the suspension and the whole wheel, everything right into the, like the gator back, like the little rumble strips on the entry of the turn. But everyone had been slightly dropping there, so it's been digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think when I fell into that, and I mean, destroyed everything on that right rear quarter. I had the wheel, the tire itself shot off the car. I think I bent 3 suspension arms. The axle boot was torn. Like, I went through everything. But I was so determined. I finished the lap. Like,
Yeah.
you look back at the replays, I stayed in it the whole time. And Kristaps did like an amazing job. Somehow, like, I lost like 60% of the car speed, with only having one tire essentially. And,
Yeah, I mean, you can see why. Yeah.
It's hard to follow a car that all of a sudden just dropped off speed.
Yeah.
His was insanely gripped up already and fast. So it's just like he did a great job of actually just keeping close to me, keeping in drift and not having any kind of mistakes. And it was just like, well, all right, like that sucked. And I knew what the call was going to be right then and there. And it was just like, all right, well, let's get ready for Jersey. We got to figure it out. Let's go. So.
Yeah, that was an interesting run. I remember getting the picture of the wheel back, and I was like, he's like, well, it's still on the car, and I'm like, it was just smoother,
Yeah, all the way around smoother, and it was just, it was just way, way too hard of an impact on that poor thing. And so it didn't just take the wheel out. It took out like nearly the whole corner
right
of everything. But I was just like, I was like, there's nothing I can do. I'm just going to have to just finish the run. I got to try. Maybe he spun out and I don't know it. So I'm just going to keep going. And, but he ended up, doing a good follow run for what he could for a car that's super slow in front of him and was able to complete the pass. And at that point, like I just kind of knew. I was like, all right, well, we'll go back. We're going to get the car cleaned up and fixed back up and we're going to go out to Jersey. So.